Hello, my biblical history students. This is going to be a short video to kind of wrap up what you've been reading in chapters 9 through 11 and kind of give you a heads up on the short little tests that you're going to take on those chapters over the weekend. Haven't made a video for these chapters because I think a lot of it is pretty straightforward. A couple of wrap-up comments on the book as a whole. Hopefully what you've noticed in these three modules that you have the first 5 chapters that is kind of the theory, and then we've gone through 3 sections throughout the Old Testament. As you notice, like when we went back to the time of the patriarchs and the Exodus, overall the best way to say it is the dates, you couldn't really nail down things with much certainty, but as Proven tried to argue that it certainly seems that there is enough stuff there to give you an indication, to give the impression and indication that there is an actual history there. It's just overlaid with a lot of other stuff, but it's kind of foggy. Then when we got to the conquest and Judges and Saul and David, you kind of started seeing a little more things you can kind of nail down with a little more certainty. And the reason why, when you think about it, it should not be surprising, is that as Israel becomes a nation and starts interacting with other nations, well, we have some records of those other nations that kind of corroborate what's going on in Israel. So that shouldn't be surprising that we're going to find more stuff. And now in these chapters 9 through 11, when we get from Solomon all the way through Ezra, Nehemiah, and the return from exile, well, this is where Judah in the south and Israel in the north have a lot more connections with. There's a couple of interactions with Egypt and their records, Babylon and Assyria, major world powers that we have their records of that corroborate the things that we find in Kings and, First and Kings, basically. So as you've noticed in these last 3 chapters, 9 through 11, there's a lot more certainty about historical events. We can nail down dates and people and when they did their stuff. So that's that's kind of a big deal as you go through. Now, generally speaking, I just wanted to say a few things about your little test you're going to take. This is what you're going to this is what you should expect. First off, because we are dealing with a lot more certainty with dates, I want you to know certain dates. Just nail those down in a historic fashion. And I'll send you a little study guide, and you can find them in your homework. But basically, these are going to be the basic dates you want to know that help you nail things down. The Syro-Ephraimite crisis, that's roughly 742 to 730 something, mid-8th century. That is the event in which King Ahaz invites Assyria in to help him ward off Israel and Aram. That kind of invites Assyrian oppression. That's why the Syro-Ephraimite crisis is so important. The fall of Samaria, which is the capital of the northern kingdom, basically the destruction of the northern kingdom, that's 721. Sennacherib's invasion is 701. The fall of Jerusalem is 587. If you want to really tease it out, 10 years earlier was the first deportation in 597. The return from exile with Cyrus's decree is 539. The rebuilding of the temple, basically, it really was from 520 to 516. This is the Ezra Nehemiah material. Might be a few more. Look through your homework. If there's any real nailed down important dates, be able to, know what they are. So you want to know your dates so you can kind of nail down the history of Israel during this time. Also, you want to nail down some of the important people. These are going to be matching sections, matching dates, matching people with their main things. Starting with Solomon, some of his adversaries, This is just going to be, like I said, there's going to be a matching section. This is either you know it or you don't. Know some of the main kings and main prophets during this period. You have Solomon, Rehoboam, Jeroboam, First Kings. After the split of the kingdom, Rehoboam is the king of Judah. Jeroboam is the king of Israel. You want to know who Shishak is. Ahab, Hazael of Aram, he's mentioned in your assignments. Jehu, Athaliah, Joash, Jeroboam II, Pharaoh So, Ahaz, Hezekiah, Hoshea, Manasseh, Ashurbanipal, Josiah, Necho II, Zedekiah, Nebuchadnezzar, Nabonidus, Cyrus, Darius, and then those guys who were sticking in the craw of Ezra, Nehemiah, Sanballat, Tobiah, Gershom the Arab. Those are the main people mentioned in these assignments. Now, am I going to ask every single one? No, but you're going to want to know enough about who they are. So if you see it in the matching, you can say, okay, that guy did this, and you can match them up. Show me that you have a general idea of who's who. I'm also going to have, let me see here. I'm just checking out my stuff. So you're going to want to know some dates, some historical figures. That's really going to be the bulk of it. It's going to be a lot of just objective who's who. But I'm also going to tell you ahead of time a couple of short essays I want you to write. And to do it right, I'll tell you what. This is what they are. You could jot out some notes ahead of time so you know, so you can focus on what you write. Okay, I'll give you permission to do that. Two big things when it comes to the historicity of it: the rise of Solomon and the reign of Solomon. Focus on 1 Kings 1 through 11. Read that again read that over again. And I want you to assess the reign of Solomon. Specifically, what are some positive things presented concerning his reign, but also what are some negative things presented in his reign? Because obviously, we're talking about First Kings, who are presenting who these kings are, what they did in history, how are they presented. So I want you to be able to discuss, a good analysis of King Solomon from 1 Kings 1 through 11. So read through 1 through 11 on your own. Make up a list of what are some things that he does that are good and why. What are some things that he does that aren't so good and why. Have a good assessment of him. The second essay I'm going to want you to do, and this is going to be difficult, and I just like this because I had to work on this on my PhD, so I want to make everybody do it. You specifically look at 2 Kings 18 and 19. This is the events from, let me get back to this. This is the events of Sennacherib's invasion, and the question about how the dates fit and Hezekiah's reign. There was a question or two on your homework on that. I think it was in chapter 10, maybe. It's a really big, complicated thing. Because on one hand, we're told that Hezekiah reigned for a certain amount of time, that the northern kingdom fell during his 6th or 7th year, and the northern kingdom fell in 721, so you'd say, oh, he must have started in 727. But then it says Sennacherib's invasion happened in his 14th year. How could that be? Because 14 years after 14 years after 727 would put you at 713. But Sennacherib's invasion is 701. So how do you reconcile those dates? How do you make a coherent timeline based on the information that we have in 2 Kings 18 and 19? The parallel passages are 2 Chronicles 29 to 32. Heck, you could even look at Isaiah 36 and 37. Those are as a parallel passage as well. So spend time ahead of time in the next day or two looking over this and try, based on the writing, and based on what we did in the homework, kind of plot out how you think the events transpired. What happened when? How did the whole thing start? Go from there. So yeah, in addition to that, and I'm going to put this on your study guide, there's even Sennacherib himself in his own royal annals gives an account of his invasion into Judah. And I'm going to give you that account on the study guide. You could read that and kind of read that, look at those other passages, 2 Kings 18:19, Isaiah 36:37, and then the Chronicles part, and try to piece that all together and present to me in a short essay what you think happened and when. How? Give me a timeline. All right. So that's all it's going to be. It's going to be some matching on who's who, matching on some dates, maybe a couple random questions here and there based on the homework. But basically, it's going to be the dates, the key figures, and key world leaders, and those two essays that you can kind of, don't write them out ahead of time, but you can kind of bullet point out the points you want to make, and then have those bullet points with you as you write your essay. Okay, so there you go. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say, and you'll be taking that this weekend, and then we're done with the Old Testament. And starting next week, we're going to do the second book, the Ben Witherington book, which is going to take us through the history of the New Testament, which is going to be a lot easier because the entire New Testament history takes all of about 100 years. You know, the Old Testament, we've just gone through 1,500 years. The New Testament is just roughly 100 years worth of stuff. It's a lot more straightforward. It's easy to plot things out, and it's just a good book. It gives you a good overview of what happens in the New Testament period. All right, so enjoy that. All right, bye.